Welcome to Politica Show on Lions Wire. Today is November 3rd, and our guest is, as always, Ilya Levkov. Welcome to the show, Ilyusha.
Thank you.
Few words. I have to extend special thank you to Ilya. He had eye surgery and insisted on doing this here. Nonetheless, by the way, that explains why he has sunglasses on because of heightened light sensitivity. So thank you, Ilya, for doing this.
Thank you. And legally and illegally, I am blind.
hopefully not for long.
Yes, I hope so too. I will be guided by those my send
watch.
Yes, clock.
So we'll try to do it in half an hour.
Yes.
All right. So we are rapidly approaching the election date, and there's a lot of things going on election front. I think the polls show that the difference between Trump and Kamala is very minimal, and it's really tight race. So, Ilyusha, having said that, your comments.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I have several bullets just to kind of characterize the situation. In a way, once upon a time, we will be looking at those days with unbelievable question. That is the history. It's a historical moment, and very rarely even professional people, not to mention simply people from the street, realize that they live in a historical moment. And what will happen in 2 days is of great importance. It's being said very often, it's a major turn of events, etc. But in this case, there are so many things will be changed because of the actors, i.e., former President Trump and present Vice President Kamala Harris. They are so different, I think even if they would believe in the same thing, they still will be so different. And in this case, they are geometrically oppose one the other. So the first thing which I would like to say it is this final curtain for Trump, because if he wins, he will be only one term, and if he doesn't win, this will be his last political step. So therefore, it's very interesting to pinpoint some let me say, I must confess, maybe I said it before, I'm right of center. I did not vote for Trump in 2016 because during the primaries even and thereafter, because those were promises of a novice, and he asked to trust him. Now, I'm a cautious person, which doesn't prevent me making errors. In any case, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. However, after he entered the White House as the president, I did, during those 4 years, realize that I'm very close to numerous of his policies, and hence in 2020 I voted for him. As a matter of fact, because I in those days appeared primarily on the Russian, I was very vocal, critical. That is, some criticism remained to this day. But this is about his private manners, the way of speaking, the way of repeating sentences, and the way, even if you recall, he was very excited that he built a beautiful wall. You know, the wall should be effective, not for the beauty. But he was repeating it, and this kind of me, though I'm a newcomer to the United States, but still I'm used more to academic words and some analytical speaking, yes, as it's used in academia. In any case, what happened that I realized, and I voted for him. Now, let me just and therefore I followed his policies thereafter. Now, there are several bullets that I wrote myself, which are kind of an interesting. As you recall, these elections, in a way, he was twice impeached, and the second impeachment was completely baseless, and despite that, there was that he, in a way, organized and responsible for what happened on January the 6th. And what is interesting is a clash between the leaders of the um, two people, as you recall. The the committee that handled it had two representatives of the Republican Party. However, Nancy Pelosi said she doesn't like them and she prefers two others. And this was Kinzinger and Susan. Um, ah, Susan. Let me just. I apologize. I don't see. Of the former daughter of the former Vice President Dick Cheney. And what is interesting is that they moved and represented primarily the policies of the Democratic Party. Now, why is that unusual, etc.? Because there was never any contact between um, Dick Cheney, former VP, and Trump. There was only one call from Dick Cheney when he called Trump in the last days and thanked him because he pardoned his right hand, Scooter Libby. It's a long story, but the point was they tried to hit um, Dick Cheney, vice president, because he was involved in many things and he was considered to be the gray cardinal of the Bush administration. But they couldn't get to Bush, so they went to him, against him. Now they also couldn't get him straight, therefore they decided to check his right hand, Scooter Libby. What crime did they accuse him of? Actually, it's very interesting. They accuse him of a crime to have a bad memory. What was a bad memory? Bad memory was a date, a specific date, which was noted in his diary of Scooter Libby. And then when he was interrogated by the FBI, he missed a day or two. You know, what happened 3-4 years ago. And for this, he was sentenced to prison. You hear? Bad memory. You remember what was the conclusion of the special attorney which interviewed President Biden? And he said he has lapses in his memory, but and therefore he cannot face a trial. Few people, if any, I didn't have the same case, so-called. One went to prison, the other one was spared of doing so. So at this point, it's just a beginning, because what is happening that Susan, daughter that is the daughter of the Dick Cheney, Susan Cheney, who became kind of moved from not officially but practically in behavior from the Republican Party to Democrat Party. And she was the leader of this committee, as you remember, which found Trump to be impeached. And since then, this date, January 6th, remember, where Trump was told his supporters go peacefully and no other instruction he was given. Go in peace, and you can do it only in peace. So let me look on them. So this was. So this was, in a way, a kind of a Shakespearean drama. That is Trump who saved Dick Cheney and his assistant from being pursued by the FBI. His daughter went, in a way, against Trump with all its might, and today it became almost a historical date, January 6th, when was this walking of the protesters in Washington to the halls of Congress. Now, I would like to go through several, though this is for me a very, very interesting and kind of uncovered issue in American contemporary history. Let me see, what do I have? This is another, I cannot see. Then see. So, several other of those points that I would present. It's unusual advertising which took place during the last weeks, which was targeted to cure for the votes of women by the Democratic Party. What was it? Surprisingly, it was kind of a, kind of a thing for misbehavior. This was an advertising for Las Vegas. And they've always, you probably seen it and heard it. And it stated, they show a group of young women and then they're giggling. And then it says, what happened in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. Kind of a hint, for being disloyal to their husbands and boyfriends. Now, this slogan was redirected toward the forthcoming voting, which will be the coming Tuesday. What was done? Once again, a group similar young women, and then they say, the husband asks his wife there, did you vote correctly? And she says yes and giggles. And then there's a line, the same line. What happened in the voting booth stays in the booth. You understand? So this was very, very personal, on a border of being kinky, a slogan which was adapted for political life, said unless you can be caught, it is allowable to do so. That is, the word said actually characterized political behavior no other than Joe Biden. If you recall, he said it to the partners of Hunter, who asked them, Bobinsky, if you recall, he asks them, how do you manage to do so? And he said, deniability. That is not enough evidence to accuse them, and you can deny it, and it makes it practically doable and kosher. This is, once again, I want you to understand a kind of the edge of the knife on which these political activities took place in the recent, during the last 3.5 years. The other thing is, uh, I would like to say about the interesting today who are being called, as you know, the latest so-called Trump card, forgive me, was to accuse Trump that he is a fascist and he is a Nazi. As to a person who spent numerous years in academia, it's amazing how people are misinformed. Because if you ask in today in the United States what is fascist and what is Nazi, 99.999 would not know. But fascist is more simple. It was invented by Mussolini, who was a socialist, and in 1922 he declared his movement fascist, Avanti, his movement fascist. Fascist is a person who puts demands to the state above everyone.
Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting for two reasons. A, because as you remember, John F. Kennedy said, don't think what the country can do for you, think what you can do for the country. It's a very, very close to communist slogans, and of course, to the definition provided by Mussolini in his short book, What is Fascism? But none of the people, none of the big shots even, I don't think they ever read this little, and I have the original book about by Mussolini in Russian, published in the 30s in Shanghai. You hear me? Very interesting. However, the point is that this is a person who really creates the power in the state and allocates extra power to the state. Now, Trump tried to do the opposite. He dislikes, to put it mildly, the swamp government in principle and in actively. He delegated and he is in the process of this so-called not to dismember but to allocate many powers that the federal government have grabbed and uh, and to show that he took it from the government to the people. The last case is, of course, the freedom of people in each state to decide the form, shape, and duration of abortion. That is, it's not the federal government business; it's people's business, and each state now there are 16 states or 17
They
states
can decide for
voted.
themselves.
Yeah, so they decide when to do. More, uh, more interesting that has to do with this principle is the rest of it. Let's say Trump thinks the Department of Education should be eliminated. They allocate money to the state per pupil and let each state and each county and each principal decide how he will allocate this federal help according to their interests, according to the local boards of education. Once again, it dismembers the structure and the power of the contemporary state in the United States. So the person who destroys the power of the state cannot be fascist. Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
Yet Yet, people are absolutely anti-educated, and they don't know, they couldn't find it in any Wikipedia. I'm not talking about the original booklet for that. By the way, Mussolini was very, very popular in the United States in the 30s. And the song, you are the top, you are Mussolini. In any case, they show him as a big guy, positive, that should be emulated.
Yeah.
So, and nobody took it, nobody accused Roosevelt that he is a fascist. Never mind. But those points are peculiar. I thought that they really, really, really uh, that's what limiting government. Let me see what else do I have here.
Generally speaking, Ilya, fascism, the concept in its widest definition, it's applicable to many countries, many governments across the world. Many governments put the interest of the state much far, much above the individual freedom and the individual interest. So it was definitely the case in Soviet Union. In some cases, it happens in the US, I think, too. But we
Well,
wouldn't necessarily classify these governments as fascist, and certainly Trump. That's not. It's just misuse of concept.
the same thing is Nazi, let's say. What is a Nazi? Nazi is a member of a political movement, National Social Democratic, actually the full name, Democrat Party. It was not called the Nazi. Nazi was less an abbreviation.
Yeah, it was.
And is that above this structure of fascist state, there is also the issue, the governing issue of race. And that's what makes the Germans above Germans and above the fascists of Italy and the Franco in Spain. So therefore, these are rather obvious and so well known, and yet everybody uses the words without ever checking into this. But I would like to, forgive me, to look into
Yeah, yeah,
this one.
yeah.
Kamala, I would say, I must say a couple of words about Kamala. And it's a question of values. She very, very often says, I'm loyal to my values. We don't know her values. Her values were changing more often since seasons. And yet, we have to take. So I'm finding myself and understand in my position in 2016, where for me, promises were not enough to vote for Trump. I think honest people should be really aware of it. Now, in this particular case, in two last days, she played the what we'll call the Jewish fiddle, you know, after she said the following words from day one. She and President Biden said, yes, Israel has the right to defend, which is silly. Who doesn't have, which independent country doesn't have the right? Why somebody should grant Israel right to defend itself? What kind of politics or reality? A. B is set was set instantly, but we have our interests. This was also from word from mouth of Biden and Kamala. And what are the interests? They didn't detail, however, said specifically both President Biden and Kamala, the solution has to be the Palestinian state. Palestinian state, nobody of the Palestinians wants this state as such. It was tested in the field It was a testimony tested clearly in 94, Clinton and Barack Obama. You remember when Arafat, they tried to push each other before him in the entering the bungalow.
You meant Barack, Ehud Barak, not Obama.
Yeah,
Ehud Barak.
and uh, and we remember he was he was we now know it's actually has been disclosed what were the terms. 96% of the territories of the West Bank are exclusively belong to Palestinian state. B. Uh, Jerusalem and half old city are in the hands of the Palestinians. The 4% so-called missing, the Palestinians have the right to choose the exchange of territories of four of those 4%. That is, they will claim a particular spot in Israel, and Israel uh, will be compensated. Not compensated, they will have it in addition. So this, it was actually a complete, they will give up the independence. Can you imagine if Arafat indeed wanted to have a Palestinian state, he would have had it long time ago. But let me jump into my memory variety of things. He didn't want to be the prime minister or the president. He wanted to be Trump people um, immediately complained. What was the answer of the NBC? Uh, that was an answer said there were more than two because there are three other candidates, and to allocate each of them a separate role in Saturday Night Live would have been impossible and improper. Hence, they allocated this evening the main star was Kamala Harris, which sang a song of Kamale, Mamale, Mama, almost Mama legally, and said, well, sorry, with Trump it will not work. So again, in the last moment, by the way, I want you to know that there, that is, it was repeated several times, that the Republican Party has about 400 to 500 lawyers in each state which is on a border, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, etc. And they are ready to jump into action. So it will be very interesting to follow. And they are already today things the courts are working day and night now, ready to reply in almost instantly. But that is never that is everybody came equipped with lawyers to face the reality which they did not accept before. And of course, I would say primarily we have to think the question that the Republican Party asks. It's a correct question, but it's not well chiseled. They ask, "Are you better now that you were 4 years ago?" The more it's a passive. It has to be more activated. So the better slogan would have been for Republicans is, um, do you want the next 4 years? Okay, how did I didn't write it down, by barely. But was you do you prefer do you do you would you like to live a better life than the last 4 years? I would say that this position of a question makes it a little bit sharper. That is, the person has to think and himself rather than to answer, are you better now? that you were 4 years ago? This is kind of questions that for itself, suggestive question, and not in every country. The other point, and the last one I would say, is that we can believe the activities of Trump. He said what are the four first things that he will make, and I think most people accept it. And this is the border, close the border, open the energy, limited government, as I mentioned, and and stop with this voting. Now when we could see to make it a summary, I would say for the especially for the Russian speaking people, if they us among our listeners, it's really to say, uh, to pose a question, are you do you do you want that your grandchildren or grandchildren would compete, girls would compete against men? Simple, non-political thing, but this issue has to be. And what's interesting, so this was the most insulting decision that was accepted and promoted by the Democratic Party on one hand, and on the other hand, as you know, uh, Trump is losing with American women 20 points below. So to close
And
it at the same time, I would say he wins with blacks and men, black men, black man, white man, and Latino about 17%. So this is a map, and where the battle will take place on this Tuesday.
yeah,
I know I was a little bit jumping from topic to topic. I thought it
it
would
was
be
very
only
interesting still. Yeah.
yeah, but still, I hope to say and cover something unusual, which is not spotted on one hand, and on the other, it's so difficult for me. I am practically blind. So where's my cane?
This
I'll
is
try.
that deserves our special thank you. Again, I'm gonna repeat myself. Thank you for doing this if you're few days before the election. This is a very, very challenging time and very influential time that will decide the future of this country. So thank you very much, Ilya, and we'll talk next week.
Thank you, and all the best to our viewers. I would like to know where are they, what geographic. Oh, and the final thing I would like to say, in light of what I told you, that is, to know is not enough. You have to go and vote, vote, vote. In Pennsylvania, which I'm following for over 5 months, which is a key. Whoever wins in Pennsylvania will win these elections. And yet, and yet, very little, if at all, was done in Pennsylvania for the new immigrants from Russia. And it's a pity because, as I mentioned, Trump needs 20,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, there are close to 150,000 voters, and they are located in two spots, northern Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. It's what I tried to do. If I didn't go through this operation and became blind, I could have somehow implemented this plan. Unfortunately, happened what happened, and I had to undergo operation, which already third week. I hope another 4 week I will be able to see. So, with my best wishes, and those who are ready to understand and to promote those concepts by Trump, I didn't go with all the details, but vote, 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 and better take somebody by hand and bring a friend.
And drag them to the voting booth.
And then go down and have a beer.
Will do. Excellent. Thank you. Arrivederci.
Bye.